What if the Quebec Nordiques never left? What if they never moved to Denver, never became the Colorado Avalanche, and never wore burgundy and blue? What if Joe Sakic lifted the Stanley Cup wearing a fleur-de-lis? In this alternate timeline, the Nordiques stay put, and what happens next reshapes the NHL forever. In the real world, the Quebec Nordiques were a franchise on the brink. By 1995, financial troubles, a weak Canadian dollar, and an outdated arena forced them to relocate to Denver, becoming the Colorado Avalanche. But what if they stayed? What if the Nordiques found a way to survive in Quebec? What if the dynasty we saw in Colorado had happened in Quebec? This is the alternate timeline where the Nordiques never left Canada, and everything changed. Here's the thing. By 1995, Quebec had quietly built a powerhouse. They drafted smart, they traded better, they had Joe Sakic and Peter Forsberg, and they were loaded with prospects like Adam Deadmarsh and Owen Nolan. When the real-world Avalanche hit the ice in 1995-96, they dominated. 104 points, second in the West, and a Stanley Cup in their first season. But in this world, that cup run belongs to Quebec. In this alternate timeline, the Nordiques stay in the Eastern Conference as part of the Northeast Division. They finish the regular season first in the East with 104 points, bumping Tampa Bay out of the playoffs and shifting the entire bracket. Out West, Colorado's absence lets Anaheim sneak in as the 8th seed. Let's run the 1996 playoffs, Quebec style. Round 1, Quebec versus Washington. Patrick Waugh faces Vezina winner Jim Carey in a showdown of elite goaltending. Quebec's firepower overwhelms Peter Bondra and the Caps. Nordiques win in 5. Round 2, Quebec versus Florida. The real-life Cinderella Panthers still upset the Rangers in round 1, but their run ends here. Like in real life, the Panthers are swept. Waugh shuts the door. Nordiques win in 4. Conference final, Quebec versus Pittsburgh. Lemieux and Jagr make it interesting, but Sakic and Forsberg lead the charge. Waugh steals Game 6 on the road. Nordiques win in 6. Out West, without Colorado, Detroit now breezes past Anaheim. They survive a 7-game war with Gretzky and the Blues and knock off Belfour and Roenick in the Western Conference Final. That sets up a legendary Stanley Cup Final, Quebec versus Detroit, Sakic versus Yzerman, Waugh versus Vernon. And just like the Avalanche did in reality, the Nordiques win it all. 1996 Stanley Cup champions, without ever moving. The Nordiques had arrived. Fresh off their win in 1996, Quebec charged into the 1996-97 season with a new hunger to repeat. They dominated the regular season and clinched the top seed in the Eastern Conference. And they had one goal in mind: finish the job. Round 1, Quebec versus Ottawa. The playoffs opened with a battle of the provinces. Quebec versus the upstart Ottawa Senators, led by young stars Alexei Yashin and Daniel Alfredson. The Sens showed flashes of brilliance, but the moment was too big. Quebec's veteran core sliced through their inexperience, ending the series in 5 with a thunderous Game 5 win at home. Round 2, Quebec versus New York Rangers. Next up, the Broadway legends Wayne Gretzky and Mark Messier. It was a marquee matchup dripping in storylines, but the Nordiques proved too fast, too physical. Patrick Waugh slammed the door shut in Game 6 at Madison Square Garden, stealing the series and silencing the Big Apple. Conference final, Quebec versus Philadelphia Flyers. Then came the showdown everyone wanted, Lindros versus Quebec. The man who once refused to wear their jersey now stood between them and the Stanley Cup final. In an epic 7-game war, Eric Lindros led the charge, but Joe Sakic and Peter Forsberg were relentless. Game 7 went down to the wire in a roaring Colisée de Quebec. When the final horn sounded, Quebec had triumphed, and the building shook like never before. Stanley Cup Final, Quebec versus Detroit. A rematch of the previous year's championship, and the Red Wings wanted revenge. Detroit played a nearly perfect series. Their puck possession suffocated Quebec. In 6 bruising games, the Wings reclaimed the cup. Quebec had fallen short again, but the dynasty seeds were already planted. Over the next decade, Quebec would remain a perennial force. In 1998, a devastating Game 7 loss to Washington sent Quebec home empty-handed. as Olaf Kolzig backstopped the Caps to their first ever Cup final. In 1999, in one of the most controversial endings in NHL history, Quebec overcame Dominic Hasek's brilliance, only to be robbed by the infamous skate in the crease goal in Game 7 overtime against Dallas. Brett Hull's Cup winners stung for years. In 2000, Quebec clashed with the New Jersey Devils in Round 2. It was a defensive masterclass. Roy versus Brodeur, two Titans trading shutouts. But New Jersey edged the series in 6, grinding the Nordiques down with trap-heavy perfection. In 2001, redemption. With Ray Bourque and Rob Blake added to the blue line, Quebec stormed through the playoffs. In the final, they faced the Cinderella Los Angeles Kings, led by Ziggy Palffy and a red-hot Felix Potvin. But Game 7 belonged to Patrick Roy, who stood tall as Quebec lifted its second Stanley Cup. Roy claimed the Conn Smythe. In 2002, Quebec returned hungrier than ever. In the East, they battled the Carolina Hurricanes, and once again, Roy stood taller than the moment. He outdueled Arturs Herbe, and Quebec took the series in 6. In the West, Detroit built a juggernaut. They steamrolled their way through Edmonton, Los Angeles, and San Jose, setting up a third epic clash with Quebec. The series went the distance, but in Game 7 at Joe Louis Arena, the Red Wings blew the doors off, 7-0. Detroit had cemented its legacy. The Nordiques could only watch. Time marched on, and the dynasty began to fade. In 2002 to 2003, Sakic was limited to just 58 games. Quebec reached Round 2, but Ottawa, fueled by youth and speed, ended Roy's final run. The Hall of Famer retired that summer, 2003-4. Forsberg missed over half the season. Quebec fell to the 7th seed. In the playoffs, with Forsberg back, they stunned Joe Thornton and the Bruins in Round 1. But the dream died in Round 2. Tampa Bay's skill and speed overwhelmed them en route to their first Stanley Cup. Then came the lockout. 2005, the NHL went dark. When hockey returned, Quebec had changed. Forsberg signed with Philadelphia. The core was aging. In 2006, they scraped into the playoffs as the 7th seed and ran straight into Carolina's magic run. The Hurricanes ousted them in 5. In 2007, only Joe Sakic remained from the Golden Days, but the 37-year-old turned back the clock. 100 points in 82 games, dragging Quebec to the 6th seed. They beat Kovalchuk's Thrashers in 5, but couldn't get past Buffalo's high-octane attack in Round 2. In 2008, the last dance. Sakic was hurt for half the year, but Paul Stastny stepped up, 71 points in 66 games, to sneak Quebec into the playoffs again as the 6th seed. Sakic returned, and Peter Forsberg came back for one last run. Round 1, Quebec versus Washington. MVP. Alex Ovechkin was ready to launch his playoff legacy, but the grizzled Nordiques outlasted the Caps in 7 games, with Sakic scoring a vintage Game 7 winner. Round 2, Quebec versus New York Rangers. 35-year-old Jagr was still dangerous, but not dangerous enough. Quebec finished the series in 6, setting up one last showdown. Eastern Conference Final, Quebec versus Pittsburgh. Sidney Crosby, Yevgeny Malkin, and the next generation awaited. The speed, the youth, the firepower, it was too much for the 38-year-old Sakic and the battle-worn Nordiques, and just like that, it was over. The golden era had ended, but the soul of hockey still lived in Quebec City. After the 2008 playoff run, Joe Sakic retired in 2009, closing the book on the last member of the original dynasty. The following seasons were rocky. The Nordiques missed the playoffs for several years, struggling to rebuild. But just like in real life, their draft table became their salvation. With the 2nd overall pick in 2011, the Nordiques selected Gabriel Landeskog, a powerful, mature leader who was named captain at just 19 years old. He brought grit, heart, and poise, and quickly became the face of a new identity. 2 years later, Quebec landed their franchise center. Nathan MacKinnon, taken 1st overall in 2013, was explosive, electrifying, and unstoppable in transition. He became the heartbeat of the new Nordiques, wearing the A proudly, and playing with the same fire Sakic once did. In 2015, they added the perfect complementary piece. Mikko Rantanen, a towering Finnish winger with elite hands, hockey IQ, and goal-scoring instincts. Together with McKinnon and Landeskog, he helped form one of the most dangerous top lines in hockey. But the final piece? In 2017, Quebec drafted Cale Makar, a defenseman unlike any other. Elite skating, offensive instincts, and calm under pressure. By the early 20s, the new Nordiques were no longer a rebuilding team. They were contenders. Coached by Jared Bednar, their blend of speed, youth, and offensive firepower became impossible to ignore. They added smart depth pieces, guys like Devontaes, Valeri Nichushkin, and Nazem Kadri. And behind it all was a redemption story in net. Darcy Kuemper, playing his best hockey when it mattered most. After years of heartbreak, including second-round exits and injury struggles, everything clicked. Now in the Atlantic Division, Quebec finishes with 119 points. Round 1 versus Toronto Maple Leafs. The Ghosts return for the Leafs. Nylander and Matthews score early, but Makar takes over the series. Game 6, Landeskog scores the series clincher. Nordiques win in 6. Round 2 versus Florida Panthers. The President's Trophy winners crumble. Barkov and Huberdeau are silenced. McKinnon scores 5 goals in 4 games. It's a sweep. Conference final versus Tampa Bay Lightning. The two-time champs won't go down easy. Kucherov dominates Game 2, but Waz heir, Kuemper, stands tall. Game 6, Rantanen scores a stunner. Quebec wins the East. Stanley Cup final versus Edmonton Oilers. McDavid and Draisaitl bring their A-game. Game 1, 8-6 thriller. Game 3, Makar scores a coast-to-coast solo goal. Game 4 tied 5-5 in overtime. Lehkonen rips one past Smith. The sweep is complete. Quebec are Stanley Cup champions again. Makar wins the Conn Smythe, Landeskog lifts the cup. Just like Sakic did decades earlier. The Quebec Nordiques, in this alternate reality, became more than just a hockey team. They became a defining force in the NHL. With 6 trips to the Stanley Cup final in 1996, 1997, 1999, 2001, 2002, and 2022, and 3 championship victories in 1996, 2001, and 2022. Their legacy was undeniable. They blended the grit of the 90s with the speed and skill of the 2000s, producing Hall of Famers, Conn Smythe winners, and unforgettable playoff moments. Quebec, once a small market franchise on the verge of collapse, had become a titan of the sport, and their fans never had to say goodbye. The ripple effects across the league were massive. Colorado never got a team in 1995. Hockey took longer to catch on in Denver, and the Avalanche legacy, the Cups, Waz's career revival, Bourque's retirement, never happened the same way. Eric Lindros still never played for Quebec, but the rivalry between him and his almost team took on legendary status, especially after Quebec eliminated him in 1997. Ray Bourque still got his cup, but this time in Quebec. That famous moment of Joe Sakic handing Bourque the Stanley Cup? In this world, it happened at the Colisée de Quebec. The team's scouting identity shifted towards speed and puck movement, inspiring a generation of players who wanted to wear the fleur-de-lis. The NHL's expansion map changed as well. With Quebec strong and stable, other markets, like Phoenix or Atlanta, were on thinner ice. The league may have looked toward Winnipeg, Seattle, or Utah much sooner, reshaping the future of hockey in North America. Now that we've rewritten hockey history, what do you think? Would the Nordiques have become a dynasty? How would today's NHL look with Quebec still in the league? And what team should we rewrite next? Hit the comments and let us know your take. Make sure to like, subscribe, and tap that bell so you never miss the next Puck Pulse deep dive into alternate NHL history. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.